36 and I just finished a 9-month course of Accutane and I love the results. I'm wearing very little makeup today. I do have some remaining redness or hyperpigmentation left behind, but I think it's already starting to fade, so I'm not concerned with that. I just wanted to talk about my experience because when I was about to go on Accutane, I went online onto YouTube and searched, Accutane experiences, and most of what I got were teens and 20-year-olds. And, I would just like to have heard from someone in my age range. So I figured I'd pay it forward. So I'm going to go through my experience on Accutane, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And, look, bottom line, if you got the money and you got the time and you're prepared for at least some form of side effects, you'll be fine. So I'm just going to go month by month, tell you basically what I used. So month 1, I started with 20 milligrams twice a day. I should probably mention that I started the month prior to getting on Accutane. My dermatologist put me on an antibiotic because even if you decide you want to go on Accutane, your dermatologist cannot write your prescription for an entire month because you need to go get blood work done. If you're a woman, you need to get a pregnancy test done, and she'll need to review your blood work and give you the okay to go on to Accutane, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. As someone who is 36, my body's a little different than someone who's 18, so, we're not going to bounce back as quickly from certain side effects of the medicine, so we need to be perhaps a little more patient. So anyway, the month prior to getting on Accutane, I was taking an antibiotic for my acne, and it was starting to work. But as people who suffer from acne know, if they've been on antibiotics before, you usually need to be on it for a couple of months. So she kind of just put me on it as a sort of a Band-Aid, or he's like, here's something you can take because you and I both want to get yourself on Accutane. So this will just be a little an amuse-bouche, if you will, before you get on the medication to see if that helps stop some of the inflammation so that when you do get on it, maybe you're not breaking out as much. So, it's a lot of just trial and error here. Anyway, so the first actual month I started Accutane, I was taking 20 milligrams twice a day. I had a few pimples and pustules in the last week of that month, so that could have potentially been a bit of a purge. I started to, almost immediately feel drier lips and nose. I noticed I was getting a few more blackheads on my nose, and I don't usually get blackheads. And almost immediately, I felt my skin was less oily, which is great. And my inflammation started to go down. So one of the important things with Accutane, if you need to take it twice a day, and most people will, they want you to separate when you take each pill, because they just want your body to be in a constant state of receiving the medication. So you should take it, once in the morning, once in the evening. Set yourself an alarm if you forget. You do need to take it with food, specifically a fatty meal. So, A lot of people take it with a big spoonful of peanut butter. I guess that counts. It does need fat to absorb into your system. So keep that in mind. Go to Trader Joe's, get a couple jars of that cheapo peanut butter and go to town. Or almond butter, whatever. That being said, if you're like me and you suffer from genetically high cholesterol, be careful of your fat intake. So that's a fun one, right? So maybe instead of peanut butter, you do some avocado, whatever. So I was prepared for my cholesterol to go up too, because the medication, that is one of the more common side effects. So, you know, if you're a little bit older, or if you know that high cholesterol runs in your family, that's another great reason why you get blood work done once a month, is so that your dermatologist can monitor your cholesterol and your liver, because the medication passes through your liver, which is why you really shouldn't drink alcohol when you're on the medication. So, for month 2, my cholesterol did get higher. And then I got on a different version of the medication. It wasn't isotretinoin, it was Absorica. And it is so expensive. I think I paid, I don't even remember because I didn't write it down, but I think it was at least double what the regular medication costs. Now, it's expensive, I suppose, because it's a newer medication, and also because it's a little bit more effective than isotretinoin, in that you do not have to take it with food, because it has a fatty coating over the medication, so you can just take it, whenever you need to take it. You don't have to take it with food. But I did buy that for the month. I don't remember why. I didn't buy it again. I was also going through a different pharmacy at the time, sort of a specialty pharmacy, and that pharmacist, shout out to her, she was so helpful. She was trying to figure out how to save me money. Oh, I remember why I needed to go on the Absorica, because my dermatologist bumped me up in dosage to 25 milligrams twice a day. And I believe isotretinoin doesn't come in 5 milligram increments, but the Absorica does. So I think that's why I had to buy it, although I could have easily just called my derm back and been like, can we just stick to 20s or bump me up to 30 or whatever? But I know that she was nervous about my cholesterol because I do have a higher baseline to start with anyway. So I was starting to get sebaceous filaments on my nose, blackheads. Those all went away within the first week of my second month. My skin was starting to feel smooth. The texture was feeling better. I got 2 new zits, and they all dried out in about 24 hours. So I was already responding really well to the medication. So I think if we move on to month 3, yes, in terms of side effects, I was feeling a little fatigued. That is common. Definitely dryness. I was getting, I think, kind of a rashy outbreak of just red bumps. I was getting some on my chest and the tops of my shoulders, but they weren't itchy and they weren't painful. And so I really didn't care. I was like, those will go away, whatever. And then I was starting to get the same sort of rash on the backs of my hands. But again, they weren't painful, they weren't itchy, they didn't bother me. And people didn't even really notice it unless I pointed it out to them. So it wasn't very splotchy. So by month 3, we went up to 30 milligrams total. Ow. So we dropped back down to like 15 and 15 per day because I had really high levels of liver enzymes. So, and that one, I really couldn't tell you why, because I didn't drink much alcohol before I started Accutane, and I certainly didn't drink any when I was on it, so I don't know why my liver levels went up pretty dangerously, I guess. Enough for them to be like, we're backing you off. So, I got 2 new zits. They dried up really quickly. And then month 4, my dermatologist had me adding fish oil to my, vitamin intake. Not that I took vitamins, but she was like, take some fish oil, see if it helps with the cholesterol. And then I was bumped up to 30 and 30, so 60 milligrams total. The bumps from those rashy areas, those went away. I was still feeling dry, obviously. This just gets progressively worse, but not unbearably so. I mean, I didn't feel like I was constantly lotioning. I did feel like I had to constantly put Aquaphor on my lips, and then I would take, right before bed, I would take a Q-tip with a little Aquaphor and just swab the inside of my nose. I didn't get one nosebleed, and apparently that's a common occurrence on Accutane, but my nose didn't bleed once. And that could have been because of the Aquaphor. Maybe not. I don't know. So, let's see. Yeah, I think I got 1 new zit. I was dry as hell. Oh, this was an interesting side effect. So, one thing about Accutane, it tanks your immune system because you are just pumping so much vitamin A into your system. So if you get sick, and I got sick, I was working at a restaurant and we had a lot of kids in that restaurant. And I think I even know which baby did this to me, but I got strep throat. And I haven't gotten strep throat since I was a child. So this was bizarre. And I knew it was strep because I was like, this sore throat is unlike anything I have ever had from a regular head cold. So I marched my way over to urgent care to get on antibiotics. Do ask if you do get ill and you are in need of medication. Tell every doctor that you are on Accutane in case there are some medications that shouldn't mix or don't play well with Accutane. So just make sure you tell your dentist, your, primary care physician, tell everybody that you're on Accutane. And you know what? When you do that, you will meet so many other people who are either on it also, or have been on it, or know someone that's been on it. So you are not alone. Yes. So also, after I got strep, even though I finished my antibiotic pack, I still didn't feel great. And then I think something was still dormant in my system, so I wasn't feeling 100%. And then I got a head cold after that. So all in all, I was sick for a total of 6 weeks. And I blame Accutane for that, for sure. So that was month 4. Now, this is interesting. I've written down increased teeth sensitivity. That may or may not have been a side effect of the Accutane. You probably will get dry mouth. You may not notice that you have dry mouth. But then when it occurred to me that, I was like, I'm a lot thirstier now. Or you wake up and your mouth is really just really dry. I mean, this stuff really dries you from the inside out. So just be aware of that. It will go away once you get off the medication. I was definitely month 4 feeling fatigue, low energy, motivation, lacking for sure. Little did I know I wasn't even halfway through. And that's another thing, if you've got a good derm, they probably won't give you an exact timeline of how long your course needs to be, because you're going to have to course correct as you go. You may need to back off at some point. You may need to bump up the dosage. You may need to get off the medication for a few weeks or so. It really, this course of Accutane should be tailored to you specifically. So if you go into an office and the derm's like, well, we give all of our patients just a 5-month course of Accutane, find somebody else, because they have to find the right course for you. And you have to make sure they're monitoring all of your blood levels. If they're not doing that, find somebody else. You want customized care, because Accutane is very, I don't know, it's kind of a persnickety drug, because you have, in order to maximize your results, you have to reach what is called a cumulative effective dose. And I believe that is calculated through your weight and like milligrams per kilogram of body weight. So, again, that's super personal, and it's different for every single person. So, keep that in mind. And that is also another reason why, you may need to be on it longer, because if you're not reaching that cumulative dose in a 5 or 6 month course, or if for whatever reason they may need to back you down because your blood levels or your cholesterol is a little too high for their liking, then yeah, you're gonna have to be on it longer. But hopefully once you get off it, you don't have to get on it ever again. So again, if you have a dermatologist that's really looking out for you and wants you to be one and done with this course, they will take all of these things into consideration. So, that being said, month 5 we're headed into. On June 27th, I got a new blood test done, and my cholesterol levels and liver panels were really, really high. So they took me off the pills for 2 weeks. Also just keep in mind that high cholesterol and like high liver levels, you're not going to feel effects from those, especially if you're on Accutane, because you're probably just going to attribute anything that you do feel to the medication itself. So that's why it is so important to always go get your blood taken. And have them review it with you too. A good dermatologist should review all of the numbers with you and say, hey, this went up, this went down. Here's why I'm, giving you this dosage or bumping you up or taking you off. So I didn't officially start month 5. I got a 17-day break off the medication, and we started back up on 60 milligrams a day, 30 and 30. And just FYI, 2 weeks off the medication, the medication did not leave my system in those 2 weeks. It takes a while for the medication to empty out of your system. So it's not like I got off it and, started breaking out right away. In fact, I didn't even mention that I had broken out. So I had, it looks like one small pimple on my cheek, barely noticeable. And all of you lovely people who have suffered from acne know that it is way worse looking to you than it is to other people. So if I'm noticing one zit on my cheek, and even I'm saying it's not noticeable, ain't nobody else noticing it. So, I will say though, having been off it for 17 days, I noticed a little bit more oiliness on my forehead. But I also noted that even the hyperpigmentation from previous acne was starting to lighten. So, started month 6 in August. So also keep in mind, it's hot. It's hot in the summer. What a concept. And, you may be a little bit oilier. Don't freak out. It doesn't mean the medication's not working. It also has to adjust to outside factors. So month 6, no new symptoms. Again, I had like one zit, but it went away in a couple days. And also when I'm saying zit, I think at this point in the medication, I wasn't getting any whiteheads. If I was getting a zit, it was just like a red bump, which may or may not have even been acne. It could have just been a reaction to something, or like a reaction to my skin being really sensitive because, you know, the medication makes your skin very, very dry and very, very vulnerable. So, you know, I called it a zit. Was it a zit? I don't know. It went away really fast. So month 6, it did look like I was getting a little bit of a breakout because I had, it also says here that this was my second to last month on the medication. It was not. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 zits, as I call them. None of them were whiteheads, but of course, Dr. Google told me that it could have been some kind of dermatitis from all the dryness, from the medication, you know, from the heat interacting. Here's the thing. So I remember I emailed my dermatologist and I said, hey, I'm getting all these bumps. And I think it was like around my mouth too. And also keep in mind that like this part around your mouth is like a little bit drier, pretty sensitive, and it's not as oily as like say your cheeks and forehead are. So my dermatologist actually said at the beginning of month 7, it could be, I'm gonna butcher this, seborrheic dermatitis. So the bumps just went away. Oh, and also those bumps were accompanied by a bunch of peeling around that area. So I really think it was some kind of dermatitis and not an actual breakout. They did go away. She gave me a free sample of some cream to put on it, and that seemed to help really clear it up. I did get one whitehead on my chin, but didn't pick it, and again, it went away super fast. And also, when I say whitehead, like, you know, they're tiny. They're tiny. They're not painful. Once I started Accutane, if a zit did pop up, it was not as painful as, you know, the really red and irritated, painful acne that I was getting prior to getting on Accutane. So honestly, when I saw a zit, it was sort of just like, oh, well, you'll be gone in a day. So enjoy your time. Anyway, so month 8 started, and I'm just starting to get frustrated. I'm like, good God, am I ever going to get off this? And for month 7 and 8, I was on 60 milligrams. And month 8 was a good month for me because my cholesterol went from 293, which is super high, to 254, which is still high. But I did bring it down. I really dialed in my diet. I didn't do anything different with exercise because I exercise regularly anyway. So it really had to do more with diet and exercise. And actually, that's what my GP told me, is that if you want to reduce your LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, that's going to be more diet. And then if you want to increase your HDL, which is a good cholesterol, that is going to be exercise driven. So month 8, same dosage, 60 milligrams a day. I never went higher than 60 milligrams a day. My cholesterol dropped. I, tried to keep on the path of like the cleaner diet. And I think I said I got one pimple on like my upper cheek. So again, gone. Month 9, she was like, this is the end. This is the end for you. So one of the reasons why she kept me on it longer is obviously because she couldn't keep bumping me up in dosage because of my cholesterol. But also, it was her, and I don't know if this is just her like method, or if this is sort of just like Accutane gospel amongst dermatologists, but she said, I want you to be acne free for 2 months before we let you off it. So I might have fudged the numbers a little bit, because it also looks like I had 1 pimple in month 8. And I think maybe I just told her like, oh yeah, it was clear. But again, was it really a pimple, or was it just like a little, I don't know. Not breaking out now though, I'll tell you that. So month 9, she tapered the dosage down. I was at 40 milligrams a day. My cholesterol went down a little bit more. And I started to notice a new side effect. And that was that my morning vision was super blurry. Or I should say more blurry than it is when I'm not wearing my glasses or contacts. Also, in month 9, I got, for the first time in years, maybe not since elementary school, I got pink eye in both eyes. And I got a sty. I don't even think I've ever had a sty before. But good God, that was ridiculous. And I think I would have treated it sooner, because I just thought it was dry eye from the Accutane. But no, it turns out it was bacterial conjunctivitis. So I remember, like, which is probably just started in one eye and then spread to the other eye, because I just went, oh, I remember I got like the Refresh tears and put those in, and, you know, and then I had to go to urgent care. And they were like, hey, you got pink eye in both eyes. Actually, I went to urgent care for the sty. And then when they looked in my eyes, they were like, you are disgusting. Anyway, so I got it twice too in that same month. I think I got pink eye twice. Oy. So, and then when I saw my dermatologist, I think for the last time, you know, when I told her I had pink eye, she was like, yeah, that's common because your eyes are a lot drier. And I mean, it's like, boom, boom, boom. Who knew you needed all this moisture just to keep, you know, your body relatively healthy? I didn't. Anyway, so I will say by the end of month 9, and maybe it's just because it was 9 months, I was feeling a little depressed and so ready to get off it. I had a few dry patches on my face, but other than that, I was done. So, and month 9, it doesn't even look like, it looks like I didn't have a single breakout or a single zit, because I didn't even mention it in my notes. So, holy moly, I've been talking for a half hour. On that last appointment, when I went in, I was like, hey doc, now that I'm acne free, what should my routine be? And she was like, well, continue to use a gentle cleanser, a moisturizer, and sunscreen. And I said, well, what about tretinoin or Differin? Because I was using Differin for many years, and that was keeping my acne under control. But now I'm wondering if that would be too harsh. So she said, you know, if you're going to go on Tret or Differin, wait 2 months after you finish it. So it has now been a month and a half-ish since I've been off Accutane. My mouth doesn't feel as dry. My vision is great. Well, you know, despite the bad vision prior to getting on Accutane. Yeah, I don't feel oily, and I'm certainly not as oily as I was before I got on Accutane. Now, keep in mind, it is the dead of winter, and it's cold, and the heat's on, So, the real test will be in the summertime. Yeah. All in all, though, I was on the medication for the better part of a year. I could have birthed a child in that time, although, funnily enough, you better not get pregnant if you're on this medication. That baby will have a cone head. So, do I recommend it? Absolutely. Do it. It's not cheap, though. Even with insurance, I paid for the generic isotretinoin $120 a month, no matter what the dosage was. It was $120 a month. And then, my copay for the derm was another $20 every month. And the blood work that I had to get done, that was $5 every month. So, just do the math, budget for a 9-month course. And with any luck, maybe you won't have to be on it that long. But I will say, as, someone who's a little bit older, having gotten on this medication, I'm still really glad I did it. There were 2 other times in my 20s, in my mid-20s and late 20s, where I also got 2 huge flare-ups of acne. But both of those were corrected by antibiotics. But, came back a 3rd time. So once I told this dermatologist that was the case, she just said, you know what, let's just do it. She swears by it. She put her husband and her son on it. And they're happy. And but just keep in mind that the older you are, most likely the more prone you are to side effects. And maybe even, just be aware that your immune system is compromised. And you know what? Just fight the good fight, because it is worth it. And I started to see improvement, almost right away. I took photos, which I don't know how to insert those into the video. But yeah, I was looking pretty bad. Now, I have heard, and keep in mind, that if you are a woman and you suffer from really severe breakouts around your period, Accutane might not be a cure-all for you. It may, I believe, because Accutane works best on, bacterial breakouts, or breakouts triggered by external forces. You know what? Now I'm just talking out of my ass. I do, acne is genetic in my family. My dad had really bad acne as a teenager. He got over that, though. And the weird thing is, I had great skin as a teenager and in my early 20s. So I wouldn't have needed this medication. And then, of course, when I was 25, and got this first horrific breakout, I was, I'd already heard all these awful things about Accutane. And even at the time, the dermatologist didn't even bring it up with me, because if they're a good dermatologist, they will exhaust every other option before they give you Accutane, because it's a time commitment, it's a money commitment, and, it's hard to say exactly what your side effects are going to be. You could have an easy time with it. And I will say, I probably, based on all the data that's out there, I think I did have a relatively easy time with it. And I'm a very good rule follower. So if somebody tells me, you have to take this medication at this time and with this food, I will follow those rules to a T. So, follow the rules. And just know that, great skin is on the other side of it. So I wish you luck, and I hope you are another success story for Accutane. All right.